Okay, Sir Ferdie Munsayac ng Wego Todo. Magandang hapon po. Unang tanong ko lang po, with the recent pronouncement resolution of the Games and Amusements Board na nagdedeklara na Wego Todo bilang isang professional sport, at of course, malapit na yung August 31 na event. Ano ba siguro yung pinaka-expectations natin dahil mas lalo nakilala na at nagiging professionalized na ang ating larong sariling atin?
Okay, it's of course we made history. Kasi just like I said earlier, 127 years old na ang Republika ng Pilipinas and wala pa tayo ni isang professional combat sport. I want this to be like, if you hear the word Muay Thai, Antimano alam mo, Thailand. You hear the word Jiu-Jitsu, alam mo kagad yan, Brazil. Okay? So, eto, pag narinig nila, Wego Todo, Pilipinas yan, sariling atin.
And of course, this is a long time na goal ninyo. Simula pa lamang nung naging MMA practitioner, MMA enthusiast and practitioner ka na of course, palaganapin panlalo ang Filipino martial arts natin. At dito nag-umpisa dito sa ating recognize na bilang professional sport ng Wego Todo, sir. Nagpapasalamat ba kayo dito sa ating leadership ng GAP at the Chairman, Attorney Francisco Rivera, sa magandang balita na pinagkaloob niyo po sa inyo?
Of course, I'm really thankful. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, 11 years ko tong trinabaho, pinagtiyagaan, ginawa to prove na hindi lang tayo salita, na when we say, because during the inception of Wego Todo noong 2014, sinabi ko na kagad yung house and lot, motorsiklo, kabuhayan package, you know, the cash and the belt. Sinabi ko na yan noon. But then of course, the naysayers, sabi nila, house and lot, yeah right, sa pasok. So it's always nice na when you prove people wrong and you get to accomplish something na ano mo lang ito vision mo lang ito, and then it became a reality. That is the best part.
Bago ko ipasa sa kanila, ano ba ang aabangan natin dito sa event ninyo on August 31? Kasi this is actually a great noble purpose nga to help nga sa grassroots development and to find those na mapuproduce natin ng mga world-class quality champions pagdating na sa Wego Todo and MMA, kasi hybrid ito, Sir Ferdie.
That's right. Okay, ang may expecting nyo sa August 31, wala pa tayo sa pro. Of course, wala naman papasok sa isang brand new na sport na Antimano Pro kagad. So like I mentioned earlier, they're gonna have to climb up the ladder. From the amateur level, 5 consecutive wins muna. And then from the 5 consecutive wins, aakyat ka ng semi-pro. Okay? And then after semi-pro, another 5 consecutive wins to the pro. So ang mangyari dyan, your question might be, well, 5 consecutive wins. What if nanalo ka na ng 4? Nasilat ka sa panlima, what happens? Babalik ka ulit sa 1. Doon sa level na yun. So kung if you're at the amateur level and you already won 4 fights, nasilat ka sa panlima, balik ka sa amateur. Now, if you were at the semi-pro already, ang balik mo doon, pag nasilat ka sa huli, balik ka sa 0 doon sa semi-pro level. Or the same thing with the pro level. The reason why I'm doing this is I want to do this to produce only the best, to have the cream of the crop na ipapadala natin to compete abroad. Hindi ako papayag na mananalo ang Espanyol. Hindi ako papayag mananalo Italiano. Ang Amerikano. Siya, sariling atin ito. Kaya nga, if you could see the hashtags doon, it is all about Filipino. And that is the reason why you witness today, yung grupo, kumanta, it's all about honoring.
Honoring the country.
Yeah, honoring our culture, our tradition, and who we are. So, supportahan nyo na lang po, please. At lalo pa itong lalaganap now na professional na ito, and with my goals and dreams, eto na. We're just getting started.
Sure, follow up on what you said a while ago.
Yeah.
Sir, hindi ba kayo worried na magkaroon ng passion fatigue na babalik at babalik sila sa kung saan sila magsisimula bago maging pro?
Hindi naman. Kasi the future is gonna be very bright, no? For all of these athletes. Imagine, you get to compete. Kasi right now, our niche is only based on regional and then national. And then when these guys compete, our arnisadores and arnisadoras, when they compete, they only get a certificate and a medal. Of course, lahat ito nangangarap na maiahon sa kahirapan ang mga pamilya nila. Just like how Pacquiao did, no? So here at Fuego Todo, we are gonna discover the next Manny Pacquiao of FMA. Yun ang mangyayari. So yung fatigue na yan, look at what happened to Pacquiao. Did he even worry about fatigue? No, he didn't. He just kept on pushing. Yun ang mangyayari.
So sir, safe to say, isa si Pacman sa inspirasyon nyo sa Fuego Todo?
I'd say not directly, pero dahil syempre siya yung pambansang kamao, he waves that Philippine flag wherever he goes. So maganda yan na we do it this time sa FMA naman.
Sir, gusto ko lang din maitanong, do you also focus on the grassroots level to produce more?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Later on, you're gonna see some videos na ipapakita natin na we do have we did an MMA boot camp already way back 2019. Well, this time around, with this kind of support, na professional na tayo, there will be a Fuego Todo boot camp. Grassroots lang.
Sir, kanina you were calling big names
Yes.
from the business
Yes.
economy natin.
Yes.
Sir, tingin mo ba kapag nakuha natin unang Fuego Todo, yung support ng mga big companies, yung Fuego Todo has the chance to be like one fight UFC in the future?
Actually, I always dream big, and this will be the UFC of MMA. Mark my words. And back to these big sponsors, of course, because why not? Look at San Miguel Corporation, for example. They're the biggest sponsor of the Southeast Asian Games, Philippine or East team, pero amateur level. And now having the very first pro league in history after 127 years of being a republic, that's 2 lifetimes. 2 lifetimes. Nobody has ever done that. Ito pa lang yun. We'll make it happen. And of course, everybody will be proud. We're going to be waving the Philippine flag. It's going to be that Philippine flag, not the Fuego Todo flag.
Cham.
Okay. The safety, of course, it's just like what we had to go through the gap. The gap, of course, had to screen and scrutinize every little thing. You know, the rules, the gears, and all of that stuff. So that's why it took a while, because the previous chairman of GAP were really adamant to continue with it kasi nga weaponized. So the last step for this, after GAP went okay and kind of like gave us the blessing, it's okay, it still had to go through the office of the president, the executive secretary in Malacanang, just because it is weaponized. So that's how hard it was, and that was also part of the wait, the long wait.
About dun po sa grassroots programs, sana po ba, ano po may mga start po ngayon?
Okay. Okay. I do have a Fuego Todo Grand Council, and it is a group of masters on up, okay, master, senior masters, grandmasters, senior grandmasters, who have the passion, who have the heart, just like me, okay, to do this with nothing in return. It's just that, you know, this is something that we can pass on to the next generation, and so on and so forth. So, this Grand Council, this Fuego Todo Grand Council, are going to be the very first ones employed, because what I'm about to do is going to create a lot of employment opportunities. Imagine, now you have the entire Philippines, once they hear, oh, pro na si Fuego Todo, and of course, everybody will want to say, hey, Papa Go, dito naman sa Cebu. Hey, Papa Go, dito naman sa Bohol. Papa Go, dito naman sa Kalinga. Diba? So, for all of these guys who have been very active and who stayed with me from the very beginning, of course, nung walang-wala ako, andyan sila sumusuporta. So it's time for me to return the favor. And like I said, this is going to create a lot of employment opportunities. Imagine, administrador ka, pero what do you get out of it? You train a few groups, you train some barangay tandos, and then you go home with what? Diba? Like I said, the typical administrador, certificate, and a cheap medal. And then that's it. That's it. And where do they go after they make national champion? After they get the gold, where do they go from there? Nowhere. But we're here in Fuego Todo with the 26 countries as affiliates as of the moment, which are going to become licensees eventually. When I say licensees, they're going to be promoting Fuego Todo at the pro level in their own individual. So malaki ang potential ng ating mga resadors. They have a very, very bright future.
Sir, just to follow up on that, sir, naniniwala na